Thank you to my sponsor, Cake Wallet, where you can store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero safely on your iOS and Android devices. Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Girl Gone Crypto. I'm really excited. I've got Douglas Horn here. We're going to be talking about Telos. So Douglas, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Hey, Leah, thanks for having me, and May the 4th.
May the 4th. Yes, this is being
Be with you.
recorded on May 4th. And so if anyone is following me on Twitter, I apologize for all the Star Wars content that you've been seeing.
Hey, when you're literally named for Princess Leia, you can get away with a lot.
I appreciate that. So, Douglas, you are the architect and white paper author for Telos. And so why don't we just kick off by explaining what Telos is?
Great. Yeah. So Telos is a is a third generation blockchain. It's one of the fastest performing blockchains around, half second block times, one of the highest capacities. It's been leading on blocktivity for months and months. And it uses, and so we use this power to enable dApps to do all kinds of amazing things. Most importantly, it's one of the few blockchains of note in the last several years, really, that were launched truly Satoshi style, and where all the people who were involved and kind of got it off the ground. We're doing it really because we felt like we needed this blockchain that had sort of a Bitcoin ethic, but a modern third generation strength. And what I mean by Satoshi style is it was launched with no ICO or any kind of token raise by a group of about 130 people worldwide working on it for no money. And at the end, they took about a 5% pre-mine. So those are sort of like old school crypto terms that are generally accepted, but they're really out of practice now. So it's meant that a lot of great projects have come to Telos because they also like that ethic, and they've been looking for a blockchain that had both performance and also the same ideas about empowering people and being a peer-to-peer platform instead of just a sort of a money grab type thing that some are, not all, but some are.
Now, I love that you mentioned that and you bring that up because I think it has become rare to have these non-ICO, non-token raised, not massive pre-mine, situations. And that's a long-term value proposition that you have going forward.
Yeah, it is. And I think one of the reasons it becomes rare is, you learn with Telos, which is when Bitcoin came out, there was no exchanges with their hands out to, say, well, sure, we'll list you, here's the fee, right? Of course, Bitcoin invented the entire market and industry. So that wouldn't happen. But now flash forward, 10, 11 years, and that's just the standard. And when every project comes on, when every project is raising a bunch of money, then everybody has their hands out for that, and that's fine. But whether you want to get on an exchange or get some kind of notice or whatnot, it's an industry. And so if you launch with that different way, it's a lot harder, we found. And I believe Telos has gotten over that hump, and it's actually a strength now, because a lot of projects, they start with a big raise, and then they get shortening runway, and a lot of them we see don't actually come out with what they were going to build. Telos, on the other hand, started with nothing, and so we had no money to use, and so we actually had to develop really good fiscal principles, within ourselves. And we were flinty, and we were saving money, and we built our own platform for creating funding called Telos Works, and now we have ongoing funding. And so we have the opposite. Instead of less and less, we're going to be having more and more, and we're doing more and more with it. So that's a great way to go, but it's very hard sort of initial hump to get over, and I think a lot of projects don't make it.
Well, that's a lot of people to convince to work for free for a long period of time, right?
Well, yeah. And then the next thing is, the next challenge is, like, once you've done that and you've launched, is getting new people to accept your token as a form of payment, right? That's a whole other thing. We've been really fortunate we've done it, because the Telos Works project has been extremely powerful, and we've been incubating and accelerating a lot of projects. I mean, we can talk about this in a second, but I think that Telos Works is probably one of the leading, decentralized incubators in the blockchain space right now. So that's exciting. But yeah, you gotta get people to work for free. But they were all passionate. What that does is it weeds out people who aren't in it for those reasons, right? And by the end of that process, you have this core of people who are true believers and have a lot of investment in it. And it's not like we just forked some existing thing and did nothing to it. We built on the EOSIO open source software, which is great, but we built a lot of stuff. In fact, some people would say that we built all the things that Block One didn't build, but they included in their white paper, but didn't ever build. Were built on Telos. Things like the best worker proposal systems, Telos Works, and arbitration system, and amendment system. Right, all these things are fully on chain, 100% on chain, 100% user voted on Telos, and so that's a big advantage.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was actually reading through the Telos white paper, in preparation for this interview. And one of the things, you being the white paper author, that I thought was really an interesting comment that I wanted to ask you about was, EOS problems, Telos solutions. So tell us a little bit more about what that means and what sorts of things you guys have been able to build differently.
Absolutely. Well, the white paper is almost 2 years old now. And rather than, we updated a little bit in the beginning, but we haven't continuously updated it. And I don't know that it's as good. It's more of a historical document to me. And I think that Telos is a living, breathing community. And so it's a great reference point. And you're right. When we started out, there were some really strong problems with EOS that we predicted. Most of us who started out, by the way, had been part of the EOS mainnet launch group, as I was, and not in a leadership position at all, but taking part and trying to help where we could, and we saw some real problems. Like, for one thing was they never really built those parts that were promised, that got me so excited and a lot of people so excited about EOSIO in the first place. Just weren't there, and unless someone was going to build them themselves, Block One wasn't offering them and still hasn't. So and there were problems in the tokenomics. There's problems in the distribution. So we sought to address all those, and flash forward now a year and a half. What's happened is a lot of the things that we saw as a problem have actually come to pass. A lot of the block producer issues that we see on EOS are, if you just read it, it probably read the white paper, the Telos white paper probably read like a description of the current EOS blockchain system, right? In many ways. So that's what we started out at, but I think we've grown well past that. I personally, I like EOS. I don't really participate in EOS that much anymore, but I just think of Telos as a very distinctive system. It's very much like, Ethereum and Ethereum Classic are, forks of each other, but you look at something like VeChain, which is, 98% Ethereum code, really. And, but nobody talks about that because it's just not relevant. And I think that we're rapidly becoming this place where Telos will have its own apps, its own users, its own identity. And it'll be an interesting tidbit that somebody mentions. It's like, oh yeah, that's kind of based on the same code that EOS is based on, but they're very different. And I think they both have places, and I think they'll both do well. But EOS has been a great, we've had a great chance to look at what's happening there and address those things. And it's when you stand on the shoulders of giants, you see farther than either, right? So that's what we try to take advantage of in the best way.
So let's dig into Telos Works a little bit, because I know you were just mentioning that. So how exactly does that work?
So Telos Works is a pretty straightforward blockchain work proposal system. It's informed very much by, let's say, the Dash or other type working proposal systems. Decred has a great one now. The things that we've added that are really sort of exemplary are we didn't put any constraints on what these could be, right? Some work proposal systems say, well, you can have this and this, but not this. You can have development and marketing, but not, miscellaneous, whatever, and sometimes they do that with others have tried to do that with a committee, right? Anytime you put a committee in front of it, and that's not a bad way to do it, and they all have their strengths, but what we sought to do, what Telos seeks to do, is to empower all the users, right, based on their participation in stake weighted voting, to make these decisions, and so they're entirely done by smart contract, right? Some things, some work proposal systems have something where they're more like a poll, where people take their vote and then people go, oh, okay, I see what we've done, and now we will move this money around, right? But that's not really what we're going after in blockchain. We really want it to be everything's tied to a smart contract on-chain motion action, and that's how the entire Telos governance, Telos Works, Telos Decides system are built, right? You have various kinds of votes, whether initiatives for like Telos Works, or for committee management or whatever, and it's all tied to an action. So it's true, blockchain 2.0 governance system, right? And it really is the people running it. But we've been able to roll out a bunch of great projects, and that I'm really excited about. It's people have really engaged. I think that's the main thing. On the technical side, you can do all that stuff, but the main thing is people have really captured their imagination. They've really engaged, and as a result, we've got some great projects that have come out of it.
What are some of those projects that have come out of Telos Works?
Yeah, so the first one that ever came out was something called WordProof, which is a WordPress plugin to allow timestamping and proving of articles and any other content from WordPress, which has like 70 million developers worldwide, and on the Telos and other EOSIO blockchain-based systems. That's been a knockout success. But we've also had several others. There's a game on Telos right now called Angry Warlord that was funded by, and it's a big game. I mean, it's a great blockchain game that was funded by Telos Decide, and it's doing great. It's getting us a lot of users. Right now there's a funding proposal to keep the free account creation on Telos going for another 5 million accounts, because they're actually coming really fast. We have dApps that are coming to Telos in part because we have a system to create free accounts for them, and on EOS those accounts cost about $2 each right now. Yeah. So we want to keep that going, right? So the users are voting on that. We've started, there's so many. There's this thing that sounds, one of my favorites is this thing that sounds crazy, right? It's the Telokondon weather balloon project, and this is the one that people use when they say this is what people use when they try to dismiss Telos Works. But it's interesting because it actually underscores all the great things about Telos Works. So if you go, oh yeah, they're doing a weather balloon, what a joke, ha ha. But what is it really? Well, they call it Teloconda because there's a huge adoption of Telos in various African nations, and of course they like they love the Wakanda principle. Well, we're geeks, right? Wakanda forever, right? So I love that vision of Africa as being as non-colonial, self-building, and so we all love that. So they call it Teleconda, and what it is we had a guy who works at Boeing, but he's a former NASA engineer, and he noted that there is a huge shortage of weather data over Saharan Africa, and his plan was to use weather balloons with cheap devices, IoT devices, hooking into low-raw radio. And so he came to us and he had some ideas, and he happened to come meet, and I connected him to the Teleconda folks, an app called SessaCache. I said, if you're going to do this, we already have a great installed base right there. We have all these university kids. There's a lot of Telos Works proposals on university things. Oh, cool. So we put them together, and now it turned into this big thing. And the upshot is it's gonna add, not only is this system, it's a proof of concept, or it's a first pilot. Is it going to add a lot of new weather data in an area that we don't have it? So our predictions of hurricanes worldwide and everything is going to be yet better. But it's incentivized on the Telos blockchain, and now some very big VC funds have come in and seen this and they love it. And so, and without talking too much about it, that's going to be something that rolls out as a real thing. And it started from this joke weather balloon thing, but it's like it's an incubator and accelerator and conglomerator of people and ideas that make something great that you couldn't have expected, right? If you had some board saying, nope, no weather balloons, sorry.
That's such an interesting story. And I love the kind of deeper message and meaning within it of, hey, you never know what's going to happen in the world until you put stuff out there and you try. That's
Got to
awesome.
kiss a lot of frogs.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And not everything's a slam dunk, but a lot of them have been really good, and we and we keep on them. And there's an active discussion community around these things about how we should do it, how we should grow it. There's amendments. We have something called Telos Amend, where we can actually amend our constitution, our Telos blockchain network operating agreement, which is also totally stored on chain using our special IPFS. That's and you awesome. And you can replace, you can say, okay, we can have these elections using the Telos Decide governance engine to replace, say, okay, well, we're using this is the clause 7, but we're proposing this clause 7, and if people vote on that and it passes, then it replaces clause 7 and our governance. And no one's done that, and it's really thorough. And then what we've done is we've rolled that out. What no one's done before is that we're doing on Telos is we've rolled that out to every dApp on the network to be able to use that same system. So it's not just a system that we built for ourselves. We realized that that once we built it, we could give it to everyone with a little extra work, and then thousands and thousands of dApps could use it. And the dApps that are coming to us, like one thing, like a big one that's now on Telos, something called Seeds, they said that we saved them a year of development. And every new one that comes on using ours instead of having to create their own, we're saving a year of development.
Wow, that's incredible. And one thing that I wanted to ask you about, because you guys have a token as well, I imagine it's pronounced Telos as well, TLOS. And so how exactly is that used in the ecosystem? I'd imagine that's how, the Telos Works gets paid for their work and things like that. But maybe walk us through that a little bit as well.
You bet. Yeah, it's Telos. TLOS is a utility token on the Telos blockchain. It's a system token. As a DPoS, delegated proof of stake token. The tokens are staked, and for that stake, you are reserving network resources. Right? There's so much network resources in terms of network and CPU and everything that can be used. If you want to use it, if you want to use 1% of those network resources, then you need to be staking 1% of the stake tokens, right? So that's what gives them value, because you reserve resources. In addition, you get the voting rights. Although you also get voting rights if you stake for Rex or Telos rewards instead. Yep. And that's getting over 15% APR right now for people, because we had actually a surplus. We had set some aside, when we launched, we set some aside for exchanges, and then 6 months and a year passed, and most of them didn't claim it. And so rather than having those sit around forever, we wanted to do something with them. We wanted to distribute them to people who are actually using the network. We didn't believe that token burns actually work. We had just seen that EOS had done some big $120 billion or $1 million token burn with had no clear benefit to the chain, and could have instead been used to support infrastructure and build dApps and things like we were doing. So we use that to fund really good rewards for users and fund more Telos Works.
So you mentioned exchanges, and I see that Telos is listed and being traded on a few really great exchanges like Nudex and different people. But I'm just kind of curious what the process is like to try to get listed on like the Binances, the Bittrex. Like, how is that process?
Yeah, there's a very diplomatic way that you put it, Leah. Telos, you will not find Telos at the moment on a lot of big exchanges, and that's an outcome of what I was talking about, where you don't have the money for exchange fees. And also we don't want to necessarily change all our ethics that we built up over this time just to get on a big exchange. Doesn't mean we don't want to be on them. In fact, we will be. What we've done is we've gone sort of slow and steady. The Telos Foundation now has an attorney who has, we've finally been able to pull together the funds and get a letter that says, a meaningful legal opinion letter from a top crypto attorney saying that Telos, the way we launched and all the things we've done, mean it's not a security. And so this opens up a lot of doors with big exchanges. And it took a while because it took a while to make the connections, to raise the money to do that, and then to actually do the due diligence on the chain to do that. So we have that, but we're also, and so those things are happening now. Part of that is just a function of growing. There's a long sort of fallow period. It wasn't a creative fallow period because we were building all these new things at the time. But the dApps want to be where the users are, and until the users were on Telos, until we sort of reached that critical mass, it was hard. Now that's happening. Actually, for the past 5 days, Telos has created more new accounts than all other EOS-based blockchains combined. EOSIO blockchain, so including EOS, of course. So now it's happening. That won't happen forever. That's because we have several big apps bringing on their users now. But it's meaningful because now you see, yeah, we really are bringing on dApps. We are bringing on real users. We were number 2 in activity on Blocktivity for a long time, and now we finally actually pushed off some of the useless activity that still exists on a lot of chains, and by just making it making it through our governance, making it not economically viable for them to waste network resources for nothing, but still keeping it viable for dApps. It's very inexpensive. And as a result, we're still, we're still in the top 10 on Blocktivity off these actions from real dApps, and not really no gambling or BS transactions. So I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah, congrats on that. That's incredible. And I'm really excited for you guys that you have this great spurt of momentum and excitement right now.
Yeah.
And so I just want to say thank you so much again for coming on the show. I feel like we could keep talking for an hour. There's so much to dig into with Telos.
I know I could. Sometimes I do.
But it's been great just to get this kind of high level overview for people that have maybe seen stuff about Telos and haven't really looked into it yet. And so I really appreciate you coming on and just explaining everything. And so we will leave links below for all of this so people can go check it out. But where would you say is the best place for people to go to learn more and get involved in Telos?
Yeah, a great place to go is telos.net. That there's links there to all the documentation, and you can try out, Telos Decide governance engine yourself. You can see what we're doing. You can see, there's explore.telos.net has all kinds of lists of the new dApps. If you're in Telegram, there's a lot of discussion in the group at Hello Telos. Those are really great places to look and see and learn about, the high staking rewards, the 15% staking rewards for Telos reward staking, the, Telos Decide governance engine, and a lot of these other exciting things that are happening right now. Thanks very much, Leah. It's been really fantastic I've been wanting to be on your show for a long time, and thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Douglas.